Okay, so I want to talk for a second about norms, standards, like, um, oh God, and just being the black person in society. Okay, like, I feel like for basically my whole life, I've been like the only black person in these white spaces, and it is really, really hard. And I think like it was hard when I was a younger person because it was like I don't you're just trying to develop as a fucking human being. So you don't even know yourself yet. Okay, so then you get to a point where you know yourself and then you realize like no one else knows you because all of the work that you did and to get to know yourself, you sort of did it in isolation. You had to it's like you had to do it away from other racial groups just because of their violence. But then because you didn't do it with them, like they don't actually know how to like be around you, if that makes sense. And that's kind of weird. Um yeah, that's kind of weird. So, yeah, I don't really know what you say. Well, okay. So the reason that I feel like it was really important for me to find people like Nagad to get online and talk about stuff is because I don't feel like she had this racialized experience where she did not grow up around. Um, Let me backtrack. I want to say this again. I don't feel like I feel like she grew up in a somewhat integrated society, but she did realize that she was like black. Obviously, she has like an African family. For me, um, kind of a little bit different because like I didn't really spend much time like growing up around the Ethiopian side of my family, so I didn't really understand like my direct heritage to Ethiopia until I was older, and then I also had to how do I say this? I I didn't really have a full understanding of what it meant to be like a black American person. So all of that together was like a little bit weird. It was a little bit weird. Um and so let's take this forward a little bit to the socialization part. Like why is that important? What does it mean? And um why is it that as a black girl in society you need to first of all you have to humanize yourself. What I mean by that is like you have to be able to say like what a communal norm is and when that communal norm does not apply to you. For instance, there's so many other videos that I've made about kind of how like, there'll be like lab groups that will happen, study groups, like all these sorts of things. And like everyone will go into their study group and everything will be fine, right? Because like when spaces are like all white, everything's like totally fine. Like everyone is like doing great. Like everyone's happy. But as soon as like one thing changes, like a new person comes in, someone who's brown, someone who's short, someone who's just not, especially just someone who's like non white, like insert Asian person, insert any other person, it like throws off this sort of like homeostasis that the like, I can't even just, they're like the like quote unquote like normal white people have. No, I'm just coming on here giving you like words to this because it might sound like super racist, but like I showed you guys the video of what was happening last night at that bar, and it happens actually every single night. Like there aren't any other racial groups there. This is like an all white town virtually. But this is not just Nashville. It's kind of indicative of every city. They're all like this, except particular cities like or places like New York or the Bay Area, some parts of Texas, where there are very, very large groups of immigrants and people of other racial groups, and they have like gathered to those towns. And so it's all still segregated, but there's just so many of them living in this one small space that it feels like integration, but it's a false sense of integration because like people aren't actually like friends with each other. Like they're not. I would say some parts of Berkeley it is kind of like people are friends. Like people with like high academic achievements from differing racial groups do tend to have some communication cross racially, but besides that, typically like people aren't interacting. And so if you are the black girl in this case, you might kind of be sitting here like looking at these shows like Friends, shows like I don't know what are the I guess Wednesday is like the popular show now. Whatever the popular shows are, okay, and in these shows there are people of all these different well not all these different how do you say there are these characters and they're having these like full experiences, right, where they're having like conflict with their coworkers. If they're girls, they all have like boyfriends or husbands. Their parents financially support them. They have a whole community that's like looking after their interests, like all this stuff, like healthy relationships, like all this stuff is like really happening for them. And then you might look at yourself and be, this is what I was doing. I don't know about you. I'm just trying to give you my personal explanation of kind of what happened for me. Like I looked at myself and I was like, yeah, this ain't happening for me. This is not my experience. What's wrong with me? Oh, I must be like super ugly. Oh, okay. I'm fucked up. I'm so weird. I'm so this. I'm so no, 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 no. No, 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 no. That's not it at all. The problem is not me. The problem is like society and racism, but it's kind of like nobody talks about it. Like nobody really talks about it at all. Like the internet right now, like YouTube, TikTok are the only spaces that we actually have right now to like really try to have these conversations. So I know that was what was interesting. Like Nagad made another video where she was like, broken people shouldn't make content, shouldn't make media. I think that's so wrong. I think that's so wrong because like the broken people are the ones who need the internet the most. The broken people need to come out and like talk through their shit the most because there's not really another space, and that's fucked up. Like you need a space. You need a space. So um yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that's another reason why it's like kind of like useful to just like be out. Um Even if you don't like do shit, just like being out is kind of like um I don't know, it just kind of lets other people know that you're just like alive and that you like cognitively understand what's going on. Right, because you like see it and you're like interacting. You don't have to like it or agree. That's another thing too, where I feel like a whole bunch of people are just like so similar to one another that they just have this expectation like, oh, everyone's gonna like us, everyone's gonna be like us, everyone's gonna insert what the fuck ever, right? And it's like obviously we don't all feel that way, but like I really sometimes I just go above and beyond to avoid conflict. So instead of correcting someone or like disproving their worldview, I personally would just listen and be like, mm-hmm, and then talk my shit later, like on the internet, just so it's like less problematic. At the same time, it's definitely not confirming that I agree in any way with like the bullshit that someone else is talking about, especially white people. Like, it's like, no, I don't really agree at all, but um we're all here right now, so let's just try to peacefully coexist. That's all we can do is try. It's just another one of those times when I like know for sure I am Daria. I am such a Daria. The Daria character is me. I'm the person with the boots and then like just the stoicism, the pessimism about the world. That's me. That is me. And it's mostly just because I feel like in my heart that things aren't getting better. And I will continue. I will say this: it doesn't have to be like all doom and gloom, right? Like, okay, yeah, maybe shit is not that great right now, but but you can leave, okay? Like, there are other countries, there are other places. No one's forcing you to stay. No one can force you to stay. Like, you have the ability and capacity to leave, and really, there's nothing that anyone else can do about it. If you feel like you want to leave, you can. Leaving is an option. I just also feel like, you know, it's important to show up. God, like, even on some days, it is real fucking hard to show up, though. Like, let's be real. Some days you're just like, I don't have it to give. Okay, like, girl, girl, I do not have it to give. I want to show up with the confidence. I would really like to show up in the I'm that girl phase where I'm just like, ooh, I'm so confident. I have all my shit together. I'm just so great. Like, I'm so inaccessible. I don't need anybody. You just might not feel like that. Society has this funny way of just bringing you all the way down. Society is so quick to humble a black girl. It's just so incredible. And oh dear God, I just need to be here to communicate sort of the agony around that because nobody fucking talks about it. Like, everybody just makes it feel like this shit is so normal. And it's like if it were to happen to them, they wouldn't really have a way to cope. And I guess the point is I've been coping for so long. I've sort of like normalized this like otherness, but one thing that has become clear to me is, but this has been clear to me for like so fucking long, but like I think that's the thing that's too that's like super scary. It's like at every point in time you always have somebody who's like looking up to you as a role model just because you like lived while other people died, especially if you're black. It's always like that. And so like when you're in this state of like literal numbness, okay, where you're like, bitch, I don't feel nothing. Like I don't feel, I for shizzle don't feel happy. I don't really feel sad either. I just kind of feel like nothing. And like um I don't, yeah, like I don't know. um yes, like I don't feel happy, I don't feel sad, I just kind of feel like nothing. And like somebody else is looking up to nothing. That's an awful thing to look up to. You don't want to look up to that. And the weird part about that too is like all this shit that's like so basic, like I am not doing that well. I have the bare minimum, bro. Like I have a bus pass and an apartment and a job. Like that's that's all I have going for myself right now. Maybe at a different point in my life, I really had there was like shit to brag about. This is not something to brag about. Like I'm sorry, but like at no point when I was making a plan for my fucking life did I write down like I was going to be um here. Like this was not hold on. Whatever.